intermission flipped it open and a block fell out of it.
We were all asking ourselves, what happened? What is it? We get in the ring and he kept asking me, is everything okay? What was that?
Tal vez si yo era golpeado, pues yo iba a ser el primero que le iba a hacer la capetillo.
There was one fight in particular. Boy, I'm seeing the guy in my face.
Margarito?
Yes! Antonio Margarito.
Who can tell you if they use it or not? His team, of any member of his team. I just carry my defeat like a man the whole way.
On July the 26th, 2008, Puerto Rico's Miguel Cotto met Mexico's Antonio Margarito in a WBA welterweight title match at the MGM Grand. Cotto entered the fight as the Ring magazine's #1 ranked boxer in the welterweight division and #6 in their pound-for-pound rankings, while Margarito entered the match as the Ring magazine's #4 ranked welterweight. It promised to be a tasty showdown. Boxing commentators and fight fans were especially excited at the chance of witnessing the matchup of two extremely aggressive boxing techniques, which were largely emblematic of each fighter's place of origin. The Mexican style is commonly known as being front-footed and highly attacking, frequently seeing boxers fight on the inside. Being natural brawlers, Mexicans tend to accept a fair level of punishment before returning fire, which can be labelled as a take-two to get one approach, and Margarito's style considerably emulated this doctrine. Cotto's boxing method was perhaps more alien to the mainstream boxing community. As of 2024, Puerto Rico sits 5th in the number of boxing champions table, having produced 50 in total. This is insanely impressive considering the population size of just 3.2 million. You'd think the generalised style of the country would be studied and disseminated to a greater degree, considering the intense success it has garnered. Yet there's still a dearth of material when compared to that of other countries. Obviously, not every Puerto Rican fighter adheres to a strict system, but Cotto's pressure style, combined with dancing rhythm footwork, is fairly pervasive amongst his countrymen, and is therefore worth exploring. So let's briefly delve into the history and culture behind Puerto Rico's sweet science. Now, before we continue, please go and leave a like for the algorithm. You guys are the best. Puerto Rican boxing basically started post-1898, once America invaded and subsequently became the owner of the country during the Spanish-American War. Like other sports such as baseball and basketball, boxing was first introduced to Puerto Rico by the US military at places such as Camp Las Casas. Nero Chen, who died from tuberculosis in 1924, was the first Puerto Rican to register as a professional boxer, traveling to New York for his fights. By 1927, boxing was officially legalized, leading to a tidal wave of capable brawlers, ranging from bantamweight champions Sixto Escobar to welterweight title holder Cocoa Kid and lightweight Pedro Montañez. The 1960s were somewhat prosperous for the island nation, producing both lightweight champion Carlos Ortiz and light heavyweight holder Jose Torres. But it was the 1970s which truly signalled the beginning of the golden era of boxing. The sport's popularity soared, with Robert Clemente Coliseum and Hiram Bithorn Stadium hosting bouts between renowned boxers like Muhammad Ali, Roberto Duran and George Foreman. Puerto Rican fighters were achieving success abroad, with Esteban de Jesus beating Roberto Duran on the 17th of November 1972 at Madison Square Garden. Wilfred Benitez became the youngest world boxing champion in March 1976, and Wilfredo Gomez secured the WBC Super Bantamweight Championship. By the 1980s, both Benitez and Gomez cemented their national hero statuses, with both becoming 3-division world champions. I feel around this time, the Puerto Rican boxing style began to take shape. As touched upon, its fighters tend to be boxer punchers, boasting strong leading left hooks and dance-like footwork. With salsa and bomba dancing originally originating in Cuba and Puerto Rico, it's unsurprising that its population have natural rhythm and coordination. Salsa is characterized by extremely fast footwork, quick knee movements, and fast turns, which translates well to the sweet science. It's no coincidence that Miguel Cotto routinely trained with salsa music blaring. Puerto Rican boxers have always come to fight, showing impressive resolve and heart in testing bouts and slugfests, perhaps helping to cultivate the renowned Mexico-Puerto Rico rivalry. The island's boxers were similarly dogged brawlers, and this is not surprising. The Russell Sage Foundation's study highlights the 1980s and early 1990s as a tempestuous period in Puerto Rico's history, with sharp economic fluctuations and a destructive hurricane making life tough. Unemployment simultaneously soared and crime also increased, hardening the population and making boxing a more attractive way of making ends meet. This likely explains the resilience element of the boxing style. As the 1990s arrived, boxers like Felix Trinidad Jr., Alex Sanchez, Daniel Jimenez, Wilfredo Vasquez Sr., John Molina, and Josue Camacho became recognizable names. Yet the most notable bout came in September 1999 when Trinidad beat Oscar De La Hoya, retaining his IBF title and gaining the WBC one. But significantly in the same year, Cotto would make his debut in the Pan American Games in Canada, losing to Dana Lafromboy. However, he impressed Puerto Rico's board, who selected him for the 2000 Olympics. He would end up losing to an Uzbek on points, but had gained the confidence to turn professional after achieving an amateur record of 125 wins and 23 losses. On February the 23rd, 2001, Miguel made his pro debut, defeating Jason Doucette in the first round. Just a few weeks later, Puerto Rican heavyweight John Ruiz beat Holyfield to win the WBA's World Heavyweight title. This was then followed by Felix Trinidad winning the middleweight title. The country was simply on fire. Cotto would continue to rack up wins in the years following, notably against Paul Malignaggi, Zab Judah and Shane Mosley. With his record at 32-0, in the spirit of the old Puerto Rico-Mexican rivalry, he selected Antonio Margarito as his next victim. The beginning of the bout saw each fighter feeling each other out, with Cotto landing sporadic jabs and occasional hooks. Yet disaster struck in the second round when Cotto's nose was broken in an intense exchange. The Puerto Rican fought back valiantly over the next few, but the Mexican's overly aggressive approach was paying dividends, regularly trapping Miguel on the ropes. After Margarito landed 2 uppercuts in the 7th round, Cotto's nose started to bleed and he was in visible discomfort. Sensing this, Margarito proceeded to become even more aggressive, continuing to inflict damage into the 10th round. As the 11th began, Margarito threw successive combinations to start the round and had Miguel up against the ropes with nowhere to go. After one combination forced Miguel to his knees, he showed great resilience, standing up and giving it one last shot. But it was to no avail. Margarito's combinations continued to come thick and fast, forcing Cotto's corner to throw in the towel. Despite the dominant ending for the Mexican, 2 judges had a score of only 96-94 in favour of Margarito, while the 3rd scored the fight even before the referee's stoppage. Cotto had been handed his first loss, left with his face a swollen mask, with blood pouring from cuts around his eye, his nose, and his mouth, as if he had been beaten by a baseball bat. He was promptly rushed to hospital, but he fortunately survived. Yet the legitimacy of this result would be called into question 6 months later. Prior to Margarito's fight against Sugar Shane Mosley, Mosley's trainer noticed something strange about the Mexican's hand wraps.
There was such a distraction about the tape on the wrist. You know, that could be the fake out. I'll show you this to give you something else. So I checked the pad, and when I checked the pad, it felt hard. So then the commissioner felt it, he said, that feels pretty hard. The commissioner flipped it open and a block fell out of it.
Margarito and his trainer, Javier Capetillo, had been caught red-handed. Plaster of Paris had been applied to the wraps, hardening the hands to ensure more damaging hits, obviously bestowing a major advantage. Mosley would go on to beat Margarito convincingly before Margarito had his boxing license suspended for 1 year by the California State Athletic Commission. In my opinion, he should have been banned for life, but I'll get into my reasoning in due course. Regardless, the questions began to circulate as to the period of time over which the Mexican used the plaster of Paris in his raps.
Cotto,
Yeah.
the first time he had Cotto busted up, but he kind of had Cotto busted up the second time too, a little bit. Even though Cotto, they said, you know, he won the fight,
Yeah.
but he still was landing hands on Cotto the same way, and Cotto was still kind of bruised after the fight if you seen it. Not as bad as it was the first time, but partner said that they kind of got hurt
Yes.
from him sparring with him, with, you know, not knowing why they're feeling the shots the way they are. So I mean, it could have been a good while, and nothing happened. You know, you had put plaster pearl on your hands.
The hand reps right after my fight. How is it broken there? It's just gas. The gas doesn't get break.
Pero te preocupes por eso. Así lo tienes que sostener. Yo te gané bien.
Mira,
Yo te gané bien.
¿eso no está roto ahí?
¿Cuál roto? Esa es una foto. Mira los vendas.
Unfortunately, with the silence of Margarito and his trainer regarding the state of the hand wraps in the Cotto bout, it's impossible to conclusively know whether he cheated in fights prior to Mosley's. But the overwhelming majority certainly believe so, largely from the state of Cotto's face. But why could this alteration to hand wraps have ended in Cotto's demise? Boxing is obviously a very dangerous sport. Repeated blows to the head increase the risk of chronic traumatic encephalopathy and blood clots, possibly leading to dementia, amnesia, and reduced cognitive function down the line. By cheating in this manner in boxing, it's far different from taking performance enhancers before a sprinting race or to boost endurance in a tennis match. You are effectively distorting the playing field to ensure maximum damage is inflicted upon an opponent. This can have tragic consequences. The Billy Collins Jr. fight against Luis Resto is a serious case in point. Resto's coach, Panama Lewis, had removed the layer of padding from the Puerto Rican's gloves and soaked his wraps in plaster of Paris, causing him to batter Collins in the bout on June 16, 1983, and claim victory by unanimous decision. The fight left Collins with a torn iris and permanently blurred vision. Collins' life would end in a car crash. The death was ruled accidental, but the fight had left him messed up and suffering from bouts of depression, and he had started drinking heavily beforehand. Due to YouTube demonetizing this topic, I'll let you form your own conclusions. Ultimately, the combination of head trauma and unfair defeats can have a terrible impact upon the human psyche. Even if you survive the ring, such cheating can lead to tragic consequences down the line. Fortunately, in our timeline, Cotto survived the ordeal, but it could have easily ended in a different outcome. The Collins outcome is genuinely so depressing, it almost brings tears to my eyes. Rest in peace, Billy. Miguel Cotto would recover from his injuries and return to the ring, beating Michael Jennings and Joshua Clottey before losing to the legendary Manny Pacquiao. After 2 more wins against Yuri Foreman and Ricardo Mayorga, the Puerto Rican was ready to confront his demons.
Abran campo para el criminal. Ya llegó el criminal aquí. Here comes the criminal. Open the doors for the criminal. Lo puedo buscar en un diccionario.
If you don't know what criminal means, you can look it up in a dictionary.
On December 3rd, 2011, Cotto finally had his chance for revenge at Madison Square Garden. As if the Puerto Rico-Mexico rivalries weren't already charged enough, the hand wrap cheating allegations simply served to further stoke the fire in Miguel. After an intense press conference and face-off, the fight began with a bang. Miguel came out aggressive in the first few rounds, landing frequent jabs and strong hooks to the body, while moving in and out of range with his signature dancing footwork. He was sharper than Margarito, landing nice crosses over the top, damaging the Mexican's face in the process. The trademark solid left hook was deployed, garnering great success. As the later rounds approached, in an ironic twist of fate, Margarito's face began to swell, primarily as a sign of Cotto's constant left jab leaving its mark. The swelling had originally surfaced in Margarito's previous bout against Pacquiao, and Cotto took full advantage. Just as the 10th round was about to begin, the ref called the bout off due to the severity of the damage around Margarito's right eye. Cotto had vanquished his former tormentor. His celebrations were muted, much in line with his usual calm, humble demeanor as he looked to the sky and raised his right arm. The heavy contingent of Puerto Ricans in the crowd basked in the glory, while an emotional and tired Cotto looked on. As a fight fan, this one tasted incredibly sweet and ultimately revealed Cotto's insane mental resilience and fortitude. The loss to Margarito was likely costly in his career, but he was able to bounce back effectively before retiring in 2017 with 41 wins and just 6 losses. One of the greatest to ever lace up, in my honest opinion. But now I want to hear what you guys think. For how long had Margarito deployed the plaster of Paris before being caught? Are you a fan of the Puerto Rican style of boxing? Is Cotto one of the greatest ever? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Thank you so much for watching, guys. Please consider liking and subscribing, it genuinely means the most. Also, why not subscribe to my Patreon? I'll be posting added stuff there in the near future and possibly some retro boxing merchandise. The link is down below. Thank you so much, guys, and I'll see you all soon. Cheers.